So we're live with the LFC Forum podcast, and today we'll be talking about the Huddersfield post-match discussion. And we have Fergs, we have Paul joining us today. Gentlemen, how are you on this Sunday?
Yeah, pretty good, man. How are you doing?
All right. Fergs?
Yeah, fine.
that was the least descriptive.
Yeah, I just want to get started because there's a lot to talk about.
Great. So yesterday, obviously, good result, which was nice to see, and quite positive as well. We'll talk about the performance in a little bit, but overall, it was a good result yesterday. Certainly, we needed one after the Tottenham result last week. So we got that, and hopefully we can put together some good results in the next few weeks, especially with the Maribor game coming up. So let's get it rolling. Paul, initial impressions from yesterday.
You never complain about a win. It was so nice to just see Liverpool come out with a convincing Premier League victory for the first time, and I can't actually remember. I wasn't so fond of the performance. I genuinely can't remember when the last time was that we won so convincingly in the league. It feels like a distant dream.
Arsenal, yeah.
Oh God, of course, yeah. Like that had been completely etched out of my memory by the form that we went on, right after that game. Yeah, it's nice to be on the given end of a really convincing, really persuasive victory. I wasn't that fond of the performance. I thought the first half we were very stilted and there wasn't enough movement off the ball. It felt like one of those days, especially when Salah hit that awful penalty. But all's well that ends well, I suppose. We, in the end, ran out convincing winners against a team that I think is among the worst in the league, if not on paper the worst. But hey, you can only play against what's in front of you. We did the job, and hey, we got 3 points and quite a nice victory. So, no major complaints from me.
Yeah, echo your sentiments pretty much. I mean, it's 3 points. We're in positive goal difference again, which is huge considering that we've been playing. So positive goal difference, 3 points, and hopefully it's a stepping stone to build on because we need a couple of positive results to go our way and maybe build up a bit more momentum. If we can get through the next couple and then the international break with no major mishaps, and then we get Mane and Lallana back. So it's the forefront of an upcoming run, which would be nice. Performance in general, getting first half was piss poor, really, really poor. Second half was like watching a different team. So, yeah, content. Again, I'm just going to refer back to what I said on the forums, that it's papering over the cracks. There's a lot going on that obviously we're aware of and we talk about every week. And one win doesn't change that, but it's nice to get something on the board. So, yeah, that's my initial thoughts.
Yeah, content is the right way to describe it, I would say, at least how I'm feeling. While the one thing I was impressed by, the one thing I'm happy, well, not impressed by, but the one thing I'm happy about is the fact that we didn't have Coutinho yesterday and we managed to get a good result. I thought that maybe we might suffer from losing a player, probably our best player at this point, from the starting lineup. And it showed in the first half. Our creativity was basically non-existent. We got a little bit lucky with the penalty decision. Sometimes the ref can actually decide to maybe not give those. So I thought we were a little bit lucky to get the penalty. Unfortunately, I'm not sure why Salah took the penalty, considering Milner was on the pitch. So that is a discussion point we'll have in a little bit. But I thought we were fairly toothless up until the goal, which was basically a mistake by the Huddersfield defender over there, and Sturridge with a nice finish. And after that, we pretty much looked quite comfortable. We got our tails up. Firmino got on the score sheet, which I'm happy to see. And finally, Wijnaldum. Again, some really poor defending by Huddersfield for the Wijnaldum goal. You're giving a player so much time in the box to get a shot off like that. But good for him. Good to see him play well. Even though I don't think he actually had a particularly good game yesterday. Was fairly careless with the ball at times. And but overall, I'd say I'm content. I'm happy with the 3 points. We needed the 3 points. And it's good to win by 3 goals, especially at home against a team that you should be beating, because it just kind of lifts the spirits up a bit. So that's nice to see. And we did it without the likes of Coutinho, Mane, and Lallana. So that's nice. But overall, again, it's just one stepping stone, and hopefully we can continue to put things right in the league, because I feel our Champions League campaign is just about getting there. With a good win against Maribor on Wednesday, we should pretty much sew up qualification for the next stage if everything goes well. So I'm hoping for that. Again, I think one of the main talking points yesterday, before the unfortunate injury in the warm-ups, was the inclusion of Lovren in the starting lineup. What are you guys' thoughts about that? And we'll get to Oxlade-Chamberlain in a second. But what are your initial thoughts about Lovren actually getting the start prior to the fact that he pulled something or he felt something in his groin during warm-ups?
He should have been taken out to the firing line. He was absolutely atrocious away to Spurs. He was horrendous, and he had to suffer the shame of having to be taken off after 30 minutes. Now, I do feel sorry for him. He's not deliberately playing badly, and it shouldn't be like a punitive measure to take him out of the team. But you've got to just give him that week off, because what message are you sending otherwise? It's okay to cost us big games. Costing us big games isn't going to cost you your place in the side. There's got to be some kind of incentive to start playing well that goes beyond just winning matches. You've got to use places in the team as an incentive to bring better performances out of them. Because Lovren should not be this safe. His position in the team should not be so secure that he can turn out one of the worst defensive performances I've ever seen by a Liverpool player and then be set to start the next week. And I would say the same about Mignolet. Mignolet was absolutely woeful away to Spurs. 2 of the goals were his fault. And there were 2 other goalkeepers in the squad. Karius I'm not a particular fan of, but I don't think he's worse than Mignolet. And also, to be honest, given the form of the 2 keepers, I probably would have thrown in Danny Ward. He's actually, unlike the other 2, he's actually achieved something. He's actually won a playoff final for a team. He's actually done something that neither of the other 2 have done. They've never, as far as I'm aware, either of them won a trophy. They've never been involved in a particularly... actually, I was going to say they've never been involved in high-profile matches, but that isn't the case. Ward's got the necessary experience is what I'm trying to get at. And he's actually played at a really high level. I don't see why we don't actually give him a shot, because the other 2 goalkeepers aren't cutting it at the moment. And to be honest, Lovren shouldn't have been in the starting lineup either. In the end, as it happened, he didn't play. I wouldn't wish the injury on him, but he didn't play. And I think it was probably for the best. But I'm really not fond of the fact that we had him on the team sheet to begin with. He should have been taken out of the line of fire.
Fergs?
I think it smacks of arrogance, the fact that he was included, because he's not one of our best centre-backs. Great cover and great depth in cover. To me, that him starting or him being named as a starter for that game was pretty much Klopp sticking up 2 fingers to the fans and going, look, I'm in charge and I'll pick the team, and I believe this guy's good enough. So yeah, that's what I think of the whole thing. Lovren's been absolutely abysmal so far, barring sort of a reasonable or a decent game against Man U when he had Lukaku in his back pocket. Other than that, he's been abysmal. And you can't take that as a measure of success to have 1 good game in 10. So yeah, his inclusion was arrogance. And he shouldn't be there because it's detrimental to the team.
Yeah, it could be arrogance. Certainly could be from Klopp. It also could be a situation where he feels that Lovren is going to be even more mentally damaged by actually missing out. Although I don't think that should be his priority to necessarily consider Lovren's emotions in this matter, because at the end of the day, his job is to manage the team. And if he feels that the team's chances are going to be basically he's going to harm the team's chances by putting in Lovren, then, to hell with Lovren's feelings, in my opinion. Again, it all depends. We know Klopp has a close relationship with quite a few of the players. Maybe he feels something for Lovren. At least his comments midweek suggest that he still has quite a bit of faith in Lovren. Again, that could just be lip service. You don't want to publicly hang a player out to dry in the press, but perhaps some of his feelings are genuine. Perhaps he does feel that most of, when he thinks about Lovren, most of it is good as opposed to bad. I think a lot of Liverpool fans would take issue with some of the claims that Klopp has made or call him delusional. But then again, I do think some of it is lip service. As far as, again, I don't wish injury on Lovren, but I do agree with you, Paul. You gotta sit him out. It's not because you want to send a message to Lovren necessarily, although that is one of the issues here. But at the same time, I just think that you have to do what's best for the team, and it's, again, Klavan and Lovren are not particularly great. Neither is Joel Matip, but I think everything taken into account, I would still say Klavan is slightly better than Lovren is, just slightly. At least slightly less error-prone than Lovren is, because some of the Klavan makes mistakes, but at the same time, I'm still a little bit more comfortable with him in the back line than I am with Lovren, because we've seen his garbage for years now, and quite frankly, just not good enough. Another surprising aspect about the team sheet yesterday was the non-inclusion of Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, who just cannot seem to get a Premier League start for this manager at this point. So let's get to you guys on Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain. Fergs, were you surprised to see him not included again?
Nope. Short and simple. Short and simple. No, because again, I mean, in the last game, yeah, he's getting a bit longer and longer on the pitch, and he's visibly much improved from the first cameos he had, but I've kind of given up trying to understand why Klopp is picking certain players in certain positions. Based on that, I can't see when he's going to get a start, or how he deserves, or how he's going to prove he deserves a start based upon how the team's being picked. So I'm surprised? No, definitely not.
One of the issues I think we've got is that we tend to couch the discussion about Oxlade-Chamberlain's position in the team in terms of his own personal merit. Now, that is one of the factors, but I'm not only thinking about whether I think that he personally has proven his worth to the team to start and play for 90 minutes, but I'm also looking at the team sheet that we had yesterday, thinking that without a player like Oxlade-Chamberlain, the balance of the team doesn't work. And when you have Firmino out on the left and you've got Salah out on the right, you end up with this really weird kind of asymmetrical front line where the defence doesn't actually have to worry about being attacked directly from all angles, because that's not Firmino's game. Firmino tended to drop quite deep, try to play killer balls from the left, doesn't play like Salah does. The ideal situation for me is if you've got two wingers who can beat a man and use their pace to start causing a team like that problems. Because when you have Huddersfield come to Anfield playing effectively for a 0-0, trying to defend, what's going to break them down? It's pace and it's tempo. And in the first half, with Firmino out left, we weren't providing enough of either of those two things. When Oxlade-Chamberlain comes on, the pace of our attack improves significantly because we've got players in their natural positions doing what they're supposed to do. And Firmino is just a square peg in a round hole out on the left. So I'm not just thinking, does he personally deserve it? Because there are perfectly good arguments of saying, all right, he mightn't actually deserve it, but it might still be the right thing for the team to put him on the field, because especially in the first half yesterday, the fact that our attack in front three was the way it was one of the reasons we were so poor.
Yeah, I mean, I totally see your point, and I think like in our initial discussions, it kind of seemed like I was a little bit kind of ignorant to it, and it's not that. Klopp is picking the team, and I can see the merit in what you're saying in that wide player. Although he's whether he actually gets to play centre mid, because he says he wants to or not, but he's going to get that chance in the team. I don't know, but yeah, for the time being, until he's comfortable or Klopp's comfortable with him, what's expected in that role, he's got to be taken as a wide player. So shoehorning Firmino out there just doesn't work. Totally agree with that. But at the same time, it's like I'm kind of slowly getting on your side in the fact that he's got to be given a chance. His performances are improving. Whether he's ready for a start, I don't know. The big games against Huddersfield probably could have been something we could have started him in, because, I mean, come on, who expects us to lose to Huddersfield? Nobody, really. So I see the merit in what you're saying, but I don't know. It's just too hard to guess about what's going on in Klopp's head, because he seems to have a few issues and some of the players must have something on him to be still getting in a team at this point. So, yeah.
Do you think that this was an opportunity to maybe incorporate a formation change? Because we were missing Coutinho, so Klopp could have played perhaps Henderson and Milner as his two CMs, or Henderson and Wijnaldum as his two central midfield players, and then incorporate Salah, Firmino, Ox, and Sturridge in a front four, obviously in a 4-2-3-1, against a team, honestly, that we should be beating quite comfortably at home. So do you think that this was an opportunity missed, Paul? Because I know you have advocated 4-2-3-1 in the past, and so have I to some degree. So opportunity missed for Klopp last night?
Definitely. One of the problems that I have with the 4-3-3 that we keep playing is that when Coutinho's out and when Lallana's out, we end up having three quite average midfielders on the field at any one time. And that means that our attacking play is usually hampered by the fact that none of our midfielders are specialists, and a lot of them play the ball square too often, don't move off the ball quite enough. And you can mitigate that by only playing two of them and having a higher concentration of better attacking players higher up the field. Especially because if you're going to play Sturridge, you've got a striker on the field. You've got Firmino on the field, and you can play him in his natural position at number 10 behind Sturridge. You've got Salah already on the field. If you put Oxlade-Chamberlain on the pitch instead of, I mean, literally any one of the central midfielders we started yesterday, take your pick, I don't really care, then you can play a system that suits the playing staff that we've got. And it seems so obvious to me that that would have worked. Because what that does is it pins Huddersfield's defence back that little bit more. And it gives them more attacking options in their more natural positions to have to contend with as well. So that's what I'd have done, and it just seems so obvious to me that 4-2-3-1 suits the players that we've got available, and I can't for the life of me figure out why we're not playing to that system and why we continue to persist with this 4-3-3 system. That means we've got this frankly woeful midfield that should not be playing for a team like Liverpool. And where we've got Firmino just sort of shoved out left because we're trying not to play Oxlade-Chamberlain for whatever reason. We need to bed in the players into a new system, one that suits them more, and one that's going to help us to break opposition teams like Huddersfield down that little bit more. I don't want to see us persist with this 4-3-3 anymore because I don't think it suits us.
Fergs, you got a little bit of grief yesterday on the post-match thread for suggesting that it was papering over the cracks. At least the win was papering over the cracks. So what's your optimism level like right now, especially I'm talking about in the run of fixtures that are to come, and ignoring sort of the Champions League for now, just talking about the league specifically. Where's your optimism level at this point?
Who we're playing, like we're Liverpool Football Club. Barring sort of traditionally has been a top four, and then over the course of maybe say, I don't know, last 5, 6 years, maybe a little longer. It's kind of maybe moved to a top 4 and a 2 stragglers to make a top 6. So any team outside of there, we should never be worried about beating or struggling to play against ever. And we should always be able to hold our own against top teams. So it doesn't really matter fixture-wise to me, or it shouldn't matter at least anyway, who we're against. So, I mean, let's look at our next games. Who have we got? We've got West Ham and then Saints. Well, West Ham. And then it's the international break, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, West Ham, it just, for me, it depends on whether Carroll plays. Because Carroll always seems to do well against us, and we can't play against that type of forward. We never have been able to. They've always given us trouble. That's nothing. I mean, I quite like Andy Carroll, but not to say he's a world beater or anything. And he's somebody we should really watch out for. But just traditionally, we can't deal with that kind of striker. But it's West Ham, and we should be picking up 3 points. Come back after that, we have Saints. Hopefully, our 2 of our main players should be back then. And yeah, I think a lot hinges on. I know you said you didn't want to include the Champions League game, but I think a lot hinges on that. Like it could be a case of get another decent goal haul under our belts for a bit of confidence. And if we can pick a win up against West Ham as well, you could say then that we're on a little bit of a run and finding our form, and that'd do well for us going forward. So I think it hinges on those 2 results, not just off the back of one. Optimistic about getting the points in both of those games, yeah, for sure, because we should be. So, ask me again after we played those 2 games, I guess.
Paul, you feeling the buzz from yesterday's win? Filling you with confidence?
No, don't get me wrong. I'm always pleased to see Liverpool win, but it's hard to take confidence from a game like that because Huddersfield were really poor, and the floodgates really opened for us when Tommy Smith made that disastrous header. So we relied on our luck a little bit. But hey, you know, a win is a win is a win. But I'm going to need an awful lot more to feel confident about our prospects for the rest of the season. What I will say is that in the next 7 days, we stand before an opportunity to get some victories under our belt because we're playing against Maribor this Wednesday night at home. And hopefully we're in for another very persuasive victory there. And also against West Ham, we should be picking up 3 points, as Ferg said. We're playing against one of the worst teams in the Premier League. There would be absolutely no excuse for not winning that match. And so if we can start to pick up some points, 6 points out of 6 in the Champions League and Premier League games to come, then I'll start to think, okay, maybe we can get this back on track. We're starting to win again when we're expected to win. And then we can go into the international break, use that as an opportunity to regroup, and then get another win against Saints. I think that's what it's going to take for me to start feeling confident again.
I think, well, go ahead, Fergs, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I just want to tie something into the back of that. And it's kind of slightly off topic about what you were saying, but the Tommy Smith header, I think Sturridge deserves an awful lot of credit for being in that position because he read that so well. The anticipation there was brilliant. And I mean, for me, Sturridge is nothing like the player he used to be. He won't sprint. He doesn't overexert himself. I think that's a mental thing rather than a physical thing because at this point, you kind of have to be fit after all the time out he's had. But mentally, I just think he's a couple of yards short. But his anticipation to be there despite not having blistering pace, etc. anymore, he really deserves credit for that. So as much as it was a bad header, I think we can't take totally away from Sturridge in that he was there when he needed to be.
Well, he's a number 9.
Nor did I mean to. Obviously, he did brilliantly. Like it was a slice of luck that Tommy Smith made that header, but Sturridge still had a lot to do. He had to make that really clever run. The way he moved his body as well across the ball, wrong-footed the goalkeeper. And that finish as well was brilliant. I don't think people actually talk enough about what a good finish that was. And that's what a proper number 9 gets you. Yeah, it was a beautiful finish. It was a really, really, lovely goal, all told. That's what a proper striker gets you. I want to see Sturridge start more. Because that's the kind of thing. Cause
you think deft finish?
Yeah, exactly. That's the word I was looking for. Well, Firmino doesn't do that sort of thing. Firmino's a cracking player, but he doesn't have that instinct in him that Sturridge has. For me to, what would help me to be even more confident would be to see Sturridge playing up front week in, week out. If we can keep him fit, even though he's not what he was when he was 22, it would still change our game completely to have someone that can finish those difficult chances or to score when it looks like you're heading straight for a 0-0 again. So yeah, you give Sturridge lots of credit. I thought he did brilliantly to knock that ball in and open the floodgates for us, definitely.
It's good for him because he needed a goal, just for his psyche. He needed a goal, and it came to him really well because it came on his left foot, and he could open his body up and get the nice and he had the goal pretty much. The angle was good for him as well, so it was a really, really important moment for him. I would like to see him play in the 4-2-3-1 where he has less responsibility in terms of creating for others, that when Firmino drops into the number 10, as we've talked before. But getting back to optimism and stuff like that, I don't know if I would use the word optimistic for myself at this point, because I do think the next couple of games are ones that are quite, I don't think that they would measure where we are as far as a team. That's one of my things. I don't think the opposition is good enough for us, is good enough to really measure where we are right now as a club. So it's a good chance to get a lot of points in here. And I'd be bitterly disappointed if we did not pick up all 3 points next week at West Ham. But at the same time, if we pick up 2 more wins before the international break, I'm going to be quite disappointed by the fact that we do have an international break coming in, and again, sort of halting momentum just when we're starting to build it. So that also fills me with a little bit of doubt. I'm not yet fully back on the bandwagon, thinking that everything is good, but certainly it's important that we're going to get some of our players back, some of our better players back, like Lallana and Mane. So that should be a big plus. As far as everything else goes with regards to the league, did you guys see anything yesterday that has impressed you so far with the league? Or because pretty much yesterday all the results were fairly expected, except for the fact that Tottenham did lose yesterday. But anything you guys saw in the league that you guys want to talk about? Fergs?
Watford, I mean, they've lost the last 2 games, but had they won those games, they would have been sitting in 3rd place. Surprise sort of team for me so far, if we're looking at other teams and other performances. So yeah, it's nice to see a team outside of the traditional big guns get a good start. Obviously, Leicester being the exception over the last few years, but other than that, it's nice to see we're a quarter of the way through now. So yeah, it's nice to see them up there.
Yeah, I think Watford have been really good. Marcus Silva's doing a really fantastic job there, and I can see him getting a very big move very soon. I think he's really cut his teeth over here. Man City as well are now looking the real deal. Guardiola's got them playing like a Guardiola side, and though I did suggest earlier in the season that I thought Man United would probably go all the way, I've changed my mind. I can't see how anyone can now outgun Man City. I think it's theirs to lose, even at this early stage.
That has to be expected, though, when you look at how much money they've spent and the players they've got, which is why I didn't mention them specifically. Because
absolutely, but all the same, the football they're playing. I mean, okay, defensively they could probably do with a bit of an improvement, but they're a joy to watch going forward. And you've got to, even though you've bought those players and you spent all that money, there still needs to be someone at the top who's tying all that together. And it is testament to the job that Guardiola's doing there, that they're playing as well as they are and they look this good.
Well, yeah, I mean, you got to look at it. They've scored more than 3 goals a game. Get it? They've only dropped 2 points. It's ridiculous the way they're playing. I mean,
but in all,
they're
an excellent side. But to me, the true worth of that team and the test of that team will not be in the league. It'll be in the Champions League. How good are they really? That's what I'm looking to see from them. because I think they'll run away with the league. I just don't think that there's anybody close enough in the league this year who's gonna take them down. One thing let's quickly talk about as well. Let's actually spend a little bit more time on it. Is the decision yesterday for Salah to take that pen with Milner on the pitch? Obviously, a little bit of controversy there, considering the fact that Milner is our penalty taker and has been a fairly good one. Actually, it's been a very good one for us since he's been here. I believe he's just missed one. Is that correct? I'm not sure about that, but he's been excellent for us. And I was very surprised to see him actually not take the penalty. Some people have brought up the fact that Salah is our number. Fergs brought up the quote yesterday that Klopp has designated Salah to be our number one penalty taker based on his penalty that he took for Egypt. What are you guys' thoughts on this? This seems to be a bit of an issue here. Paul, let's go with you.
I hope that's not what he's done, because if he said, well, Salah scored this high pressure penalty for Egypt and now he's our number one penalty taker, then I think that's a mistake. He's basing that on one penalty.
He did say that. There's quotes of him actually saying
that.
Well,
I hope again that it's lip service, because I think it's an error. You can't just downplay Milner's success rate from the spot. I think it is the case that he's only ever missed one. And it's a skill. It's a real skill to be able to hold your nerve from the penalty spot. And to base it on one penalty for one player, in spite of a really brilliant success rate in another player, doesn't hang together well for me. And all right, sometimes there are good reasons to not let your main penalty taker take the penalty. This came up when Milner was put on the spot kick against Southampton towards the tail end of last season. Now, before he even took that penalty, I was looking at him thinking, I don't fancy him for this. And it was because his performance had been so erratic. He was all over the place. He was a bag of nerves and he was getting everything wrong. And with 20 minutes to go in front of the Kop, Fraser Forster's got gotten into his head already. That's a point at which I'd have thought, you know what? He is our normal penalty taker, but this once, let's be pragmatic about that and let's shift it to someone else, because Milner just doesn't seem mentally in the position to be taking this penalty right now. And I was thinking that already before we took the penalty. I hope it's not him. Yesterday, there were no such problems. I mean, Milner wasn't great yesterday, but he was fine, I can't think for any pragmatic reason why you'd have taken Milner off the penalty. His performance was okay. He seemed in control of what he was doing. And his success rate speaks for itself. I can't think what possible reason we would have had to not allow him to take the penalty. And also, the penalty that Salah did take was the kind of penalty that you would see hit by someone that isn't very good at taking penalties. It was a really, really poor effort. At least the one that Milner did miss against Southampton was heading towards the corner. It was a well-struck penalty. It was just a Fraser Forster was equal to it. Salah's penalty was not a difficult penalty to save because it's probably not something he's ever really done that much of. Why would you give it to him over someone who's an expert at it? There's no pragmatic reason to do that whatsoever.
Fergs?
Yeah, that's my main point as well. Like, I totally understand the thinking, and there was a lot of people saying it was a good decision as well on the forums, that he's just taken arguably the biggest penalty of his life to put his country through to the World Cup finals, and that's an awful lot of pressure to deal with. I can see their point. I don't agree with it, however, because, again, Milner's been our penalty taker. He's been bloody good at it, bar Saint's penalty. Why change that just because Salah scored for his country? It boggles the mind. It really does. Like, for a special occasion, I could understand it, but it's like stripping somebody of the captaincy halfway through the season, because there's just too many detrimental effects that can happen if it goes wrong. So yeah, I mean, Milner's going to be second guessing. Am I going to get to take them now? This guy's just missed. He missed. It cost us the game. Would that have affected Salah's confidence then? So yeah, bad decision in my opinion. I can see why it was made, but I don't agree with it.
not only do I not agree with it, but I actually don't think it's a good point that's even made. You penalties are not only a skill, like Paul said, but one of the ways you measure a good penalty taker is by consistency and a large body of work. And Milner has a large body of work. He's been a very good penalty taker for us. There's no reason to change that simply because Salah made a big penalty for his country. Again, it's great that he made the penalty. He took the penalty and he made the penalty for his country. But he can certainly be one of our penalty takers if Milner is not on the pitch. But when you have your number one penalty taker on the pitch, you don't change that. And again, it just reeks of a little bit of, maybe indecision. Maybe it's a little bit of getting too carried away in the moment. But you again, just because Salah makes a penalty for Egypt does not give him the right, or should not allow him to supersede Milner when it comes to taking penalties, considering Milner has a good body of work behind him. And so it's about being a skill, but it's also about measuring consistency. And Milner has both. He has the consistency that's born by the fact that he has the skill to take them and the temperament to take them as well. So again, bad decision by the manager if he truly demoted Milner and promoted Salah to be our number one penalty taker. And I think going forward, this decision is probably going to be reversed. And again, that's a problem for me. I think that's a problem that Klopp, it's unnecessarily made by Klopp. So that's my feeling on the matter. You guys want to add anything on that?
Yeah, so a couple of people on the forum yesterday were saying that one of the possible reasons that Salah took the penalty might have been that he just said, well, actually, I fancy this. Now, I hope that isn't the case, and I hope that's not how we're run, because I'm not a fan of player-led penalty-taking hierarchies, because if it's left to the players, that then leads to disagreements. And one of the major hallmarks of a penalty that is about to be missed is if players are arguing the toss over who gets to take it. Those never go in. It's one of those sod's law facts of life in football. If you argue about who takes the penalty, or if you're unclear on who's taking the penalty, it's about to be missed. I think what we need, and I don't know for sure what was going on, what the actual process of making the decision was. What we need is a manager to put his foot down and say, all right, if we get a penalty, Mo's taking it, or James Milner's taking it, or whoever, and is nipping that in the bud. Because otherwise it just leads to chaos. And I'm never a fan of players saying, right, I happen to fancy this, or I don't fancy this, whatever. Get the manager to say, right, this guy's taking our penalty if we get one. And no ifs, no buts. That's just the way it is.
A Balotelli-Henderson situation can be, again.
Yeah.
Except for the fact that Balotelli is probably the best penalty taker in the world. And other than that. But Fergs, go on. You had a point to make as well?
Yeah, just to say that Milner has done an awfully good job in his last couple of games sitting in the midfield role. Like, so out of our, you would call them our steady Eddie midfield, so out of Wijnaldum, Chan, Hendo and Milner's been head and shoulders above the rest.
I'd agree there.
Yeah, so there's when Lallana and everybody's back, Coutinho, and how are we going to field the team then?
I think he'll be dropped, but I think he'll be ahead of the likes of Chan, when he's called upon. But to your point, talking about how he's been, that just goes to show that his confidence is high as well. He was probably our best CM yesterday, even though Wijnaldum scored the goal. I thought he was our best central. Yeah, I thought Milner was our best midfielder, in the park, on the park yesterday. So it made complete sense for him to be taking it. It's not like his confidence was shot. He's actually playing with a lot of confidence right now. And so I'm very happy to, I would have been very happy to see him take the penalty, because he He is our number one penalty taker, and for me, there was no argument about it yesterday. There is no argument about it today, and I don't think there's any argument going forward as well. He is our number one penalty taker for for as long as he's on the pitch. That's my opinion on it. Any other things you guys want to talk about related to that, or you guys want to move on to the next?
It shouldn't even be a discussion about the penalties, really. Like as soon as the penalty was given, I was like, "It's got to be Milner."
Yes,
Milner's on the pitch.
I didn't even think about it. It should have been Milner.
I kind of had that little weird, not sinking feeling, but that kind of, based upon the comments that Klopp had made, I was kind of like, "Yeah, it's going to be Salah, isn't it?" But regardless, like you expect a professional, to be able to put the ball into the corner, whether the keeper saves it or not, into the corner at that level from 12 yards. And I mean, you can't even say that Salah's penalty was meant to be down the middle, because if it went down the middle, he would have scored. He just made a really, really, really poor attempt at a penalty.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't see that at any level. So, yeah. It should have been Milner. It wasn't. Disappointed it wasn't. And don't agree with the fact that it wasn't either. So
you guys want to sum up your thoughts for yesterday and going forward, so that because we'll pick it up on Wednesday as well, after the Maribor game, most likely. We'll try and do that. Any concluding thoughts for you guys, Paul?
I hope it's the start of a good run of form. We had a good opportunity against a team like that at home to put Spurs behind us, and we did that. But now we've got to take this into Wednesday night. We've got to put Maribor to the sword, no questions asked. And then we've got to go to the Olympic Stadium and do the exact same thing to West Ham. I don't want to have to use rhetoric about kickstarting a season when we're already a quarter of the way through the league season, but I'm going to have to. We have to kickstart our season and use this now as the blue touch paper to salvage what's been so far a really disappointing beginning to the campaign. So, all in all, wasn't so enamoured with the performance, though the second half obviously picked up and there were some flashes of really good attack and play. But I need to see so much more from this team to fancy our prospects of a successful season.
Too demanding.
Yeah.
Fergs, are you as demanding as Paul?
The way I see it is that all we hear in every post-game thing from Klopp where we don't get a result is, we have to take this and learn. We have to take this and learn. We're going to go away and learn. And so far, none of that is evident. There's been no sort of learning curve. I don't see us making any sort of strides in regards to fixing the issues. Hopefully, we're turning a corner. It seems like I'm really not happy about the result. It's 3 points. I'm overjoyed. Like, we need those on the board. So that's great. We need to be more consistent. We need to get a run together. Hopefully, this is a stepping stone. So echoing Paul's sentiments, it has to be done. None other than 6 points in the next 2 games is a failure. So maybe a bit harsh, maybe over expectations, but we're Liverpool Football Club. We have to strive to. Those
are not high expectations. You got to be honest about it.
The way we're playing.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
It's horrible to say that, because all we seem to do is just put the club down constantly. And Liverpool's my passion. I love the club to bits. It's just I want to revel in the success and have stories and things to tell my children about watching the team and the success we've had and the trophies we won, and I want to be able to do that, and I'm just not enjoying it right now. It's to say, but that's just the reality of it. That's the way I see it. That's my opinion, and obviously some others are going to disagree, but that's the greatness of having different opinions.
Yeah, you're going to get savaged for that stuff in this thread when I post it. Anyways, yeah, well, yeah, good. I mean, you're getting used to it now. But
be constructive with it, and we'll discuss it. Be constructive. Be angry and stress and call names, and you're just going to get told where to go.
Yeah. All right, guys. So once again, thanks for joining. It's a pleasure and a lot of fun to do this on this Sunday. let's see if we can pick it up midweek after the Maribor game. If not, we'll pick it up next week. I think we'll have Cracker Jacker on for next week because he was a little bit busy this week. But I think he's told me that next week should be good for him. So we'll pick it up next
Larissa,
week.
get a mic.
Larissa's. I've given up on Larissa. I've given up on Fawi. So we'll see. He said Christmas time, so we still have a month to go. A little over a month to go, actually. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But we'll pick it up then. Guys, thanks for joining. Really appreciate it.
Pleasure. Chat soon.
Come on, the Reds.